You're listening to The Geek Awakens with Mitch,
Matt,
Tabitha,
and Lydia.
Hey everybody, Mitch here with another edition of The Geek Awakens presents Artist Alley Spotlight. Tonight I am joined by writer and director of this wonderful movie that we're going to talk about here pretty soon, Nick Roth. Nick, how's it going?
thank you for having me. I love everybody pauses for 1 second when this movie. Yes, this movie. I don't. Everyone, like myself included, we all struggle to describe exactly what it is.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be my first question. What is Hanky Panky all about?
It's it's just a story about a man and his best friend, and he meets a girl, some conflict with the friend, he learns to love, and there's some, he's got to come out of his shell a little bit, and there's a little bit of trials and tribulations along the way. And in our movie, that comes in the form of a killer, evil alien top hat who wants to suck people's souls out through the top of their heads.
Yeah, and
also his friend is a talking handkerchief. That's the other thing I forgot to mention.
You cannot forget about the talking handkerchief.
Yeah, that's why it's called Hanky Panky. How did I forget?
So unfortunately, like we've got, like we're on Zoom and everything, but the people listening won't get to see it. Is that the hat in the background?
Yes, that's also and the hanky.
And the hanky.
I have them both with me. It's very easy to get your talent to show up when they're puppets. I don't know what to do with them. Like what they've just been in my attic for years. Now that the movie is finally out, I have them living on my desk with me.
I mean, do you ever is there ever like a little part of your brain that's like worried that they're going to come to life?
No, I think, I mean, if they did, listen, that would be so fun. It'd be like, well, maybe not the killer top hat, but okay, yeah, maybe a little bit. I'm worried about the killer top hat coming to life, but generally it's like we've worked together. We have a rapport.
Yeah.
I think we have an understanding.
That's fair.
We need each other. There's no sequel without me. You know what I mean? They need me they can't just kill me.
It's nice little, like security right there, job security, if you will. So Hanky Panky is streaming now. Where's it available?
So it is available everywhere that's like everywhere that you can pay for it still. So that's Apple TV, Google Play, Fandango at Home, formerly known as Vudu. It is available on Xbox Marketplace, Hoopla. I think that's it.
You were gracious enough to let me screen this a couple nights ago, and I loved it. There were a lot of moments where I'm just like I'm laughing hysterically, and my fiance is kind of like looking over at me and just like, "What the hell is your problem?" And I'm like, "This is funny. I'm sorry."
I mean, that is great to hear, and was 100% our primary goal the entire time. Is just like, let's just make this funny. Let's make it as funny. That is all. Like, I mean, I think that's probably pretty clear from you look at it. We're not trying to invent the wheel here. We're just trying to be as funny as humanly possible with what we had.
So tell us about some of the movie's cast.
Well, so it's a close group of friends. Like, so I co-directed the film with my wife, Lindsay Hahn. She plays Rebecca in the movie. And then it's just like everybody in the movie is like that's literally our closest group of friends. Like half of our wedding party is the cast of this movie, kind of thing. And then like of the elephant in the room then is that, okay, so this is Seth Green amongst those people. And yes, so Seth and Claire are good friends of ours, and Claire Grant, who plays Kelly in the film, was always on board from the very beginning. And we initially didn't cast. I didn't like offer a role to Seth because, when we first shot this movie, Seth and I had only been friends for a few years. I didn't want to. It felt like presumptive to be like, hey, we're all friends, but you're the only famous one. Do you want to also be in our movie that we're making? It's really weird and there's no money. Like that was not something I was comfortable. I probably would do that now, but it's been, years and we're closer now. But at the time I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And then after we wrapped, we were editing the movie and Claire was like, I think Seth feels a little left out that he didn't get to be in the movie. And I was like, well, uh, I did in the back of my head all along was like, well, there are puppets, and he is a very talented voice, an Emmy-winning voice actor. So, would he like to voice? And he was like, yeah, I'll voice one of the puppets. That would be great. It'd be super fun. And I was like, cool, because I wrote this one with your Skeletor impersonation in mind. And so, and so, would you mind? And he was like, this is great. And so he came in, and I think shout out to both Seth and also Toby Bryan, who plays Norm in the movie, but also made the puppets. He puppeted Woody. He's the voice of Woody. He made Harry. Everybody did a lot on this movie. Toby did especially a lot, and I think both Seth and Toby um, did a really good job at like just sort of like imbuing life into what are like they're immobile puppets. I mean mostly it's not. There's no like it's a napkin on Toby's hand, and he's making it feel like it's real. And I think they like if this movie works at all, it's a lot of that is owed to those performances for for the puppets.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that Toby, like you said, who he plays Norm, and then also Woody, like I didn't realize that until like last night. I think I watched the movie on Monday, and then I realized that it was the same person I like last night. And I'm like, he did not sound that way at all, which is a testament to like a really good voice actor when you can't distinguish that, you know?
Yeah, well, Toby's like a puppeteer, and so like this is what I mean. That's his primary thing, I think, that he does, and so like he does a great job. I mean, initially we were like, okay. I mean, on set it was mostly Toby doing it, unless he was also in the scene or whatever. And like sometimes I would do or Lindsay would do the voice of the hat or whatever. And we were always kind of like, and then we'll get famous people to come in and do the voices of the puppets after the fact because it'll be much easier. And so we were like, we'll get two famous people, and we just fell so deeply in love with Toby's performance because Toby's great, but he's not famous. And so it was like, we fell so in love with that performance. I was like, I'm not going to try to get someone famous to replace it. It's too good. I like it like it is. And we have Seth, and so we'll do it like that. We didn't have to compromise anything because we didn't owe anything to anybody. You know what I mean? Like there was no money, there was no budget, there was no studio, there's no nothing. We just made this movie, group of friends in a cabin.
Which that brings me to my next question, because like I was doing my research, and yeah, I came across that this movie was done with no budget.
Yeah, true.
Even with like doing it with a group of friends and everything like that, there still has to be some kind of like hurdles that you had to come across. Like, tell us how that experience was.
Well, we pooled our money for like food and booze, like everyone chipped in a few $100, I think, basically. It was a blizzard and it was hard at one point. Lindsay backed her car into my car, and that cost a couple $100 to fix. It was a blizzard, snow. I think she thought I was directing her. We both blame the other one for it. Jury's out. I'm the one on the podcast, but I'm sure her story would be different than mine. Her story would be that Nick messed up directing me, and my story would be that she backed into my car. Anyway, one way or another, some money was spent, but like mostly it was just like a group of friends with total creative freedom, just doing whatever was the most fun. And there was a lot of yes and not a lot of no. Like when people would come up, if someone said something and everybody laughed, that's in the movie, and it was a really fun way to do it.
Yeah, and yeah, kind of go along with that. You mentioned like the blizzard and everything like that. Like what other kind of like, because a good chunk of this movie does take place outside. There's a lot of snow and everything.
Yeah.
Any other kind of like nature issues that you came across?
Oh yeah, constantly ever. I mean, it was a disaster. I mean, it was like there was so much snow, and whenever there was snow, we tried to be outside, but also it's winter in northern Utah where it's like you have very limited daylight, so there's some arguably uneven lighting in the film because we didn't have like we weren't on a sound stage. And then it's hard. It was very cold. It's very high altitude. It was 8,000 feet or so is this where that cabin was. So it
Oh
was like
wow.
we were just all battling fatigue and lack of light and altitude sickness. Ashley may or may not have gotten a little hypothermia one day. That's Ashley Holiday Tavares who plays Diane. She got hypothermia once, but we're fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's
Everybody
fine.
survived. No one has. We're all stronger for having done it. I wouldn't recommend doing anything like this to anybody who's not like a pre-existing group of friends, like with years of friendship under your like you like don't go on Craigslist and be like be in my mountain movie and go shoot it like that. Like absolutely bad idea. This is we pulled this off only with luck and a pretty solid base to go with. Otherwise, yeah, you probably need money or something.
Yeah. And just kind of just I do have to mention the cabin, like especially the interior of the cabin
Mm-hmm.
was gorgeous inside. I was so insanely jealous of you guys.
Yeah, that cabin, that's Lindsay's dad's cabin. Lindsay's dad, Jimmy Hahn, lives in that cabin. He's also the composer of the movie. As I said, it's a tight-knit group of friends and family. And that was, I mean, look, this is a cabin first movie. We were like, what do we have? We have a cabin. We got a bunch of friends who are actors. We got to shoot a movie in a cabin. That was like where this started. You know what I mean? It's not like we like, oh man, I really want to do a cabin movie with an ensemble and a puppets and stuff. No, it was like we have a cabin, we have this weird camera, we have a group of friends who can act. So ensemble, comedy, horror, cabin, like, and we'll just then it just snowballed from that. Like, what do you have? Work with put the pieces you have together, and that turns into a movie rather than sort of like, I'm a brilliant writer and there's a movie in my head, and how do we achieve it?
So even with the lack of budget, Hanky Panky has received a bunch of positive reviews, and it won more than like 40 awards from film festivals. So how does it feel to have this kind of reception?
Well, the film festivals are funny because it's mostly big awards, small festivals. It's we cast a pretty wide net on just sending this to places to see where it would stick and who would respond, and we didn't really know. And I've spent a lot more money after finishing the film than I ever spent on the film itself. The most expensive thing I think I've probably ever done is sell Hanky Panky to a distributor because it costs a lot of money to send it to all those festivals and do a lot of things that we did. Get insurance, which we never had for the movie. Who cared? But then when you sell a movie, they're like, you own everything in this. And you're like, yeah. They're like, but you need to prove that. And you're like, oh, okay. So that costs money. Like, so what was the question?
Just how did it feel to have, like the positive reception that you've gotten for
Oh
the movie so
yeah.
far?
And so people like it sometimes. That's great. And people are funny when they don't like it. That's a surprising delight that's happened is like obviously the best is it feels really good to work on something for years and pour your heart and soul into something monstrously silly and so dumb, but you just commit to it. And it feels so nice when people laugh and respond and get it. But then also, I didn't know I'd see this coming, but there's like some people who really like one person, like this was just this morning. On Letterboxd, someone just wrote a review that just said "yuck!" exclamation point, and I liked that one so much. I was like, oh man, I'm so happy that so much better than apathy is disgust. Like, what a funny way to respond to this movie. Um, so it generates very funny haters and hopefully a slowly growing passionate fan base of the people who get it.
Yeah. If I were in your shoes, I probably would have turned that yuck review into a t-shirt and worn it everywhere.
There's still time. I'll put it on a sticker or a patch or
there,
whatever.
there you go. So one award that did catch my eye, it was Best Kill from the Independent Horror Movie Awards. Was this win for like a specific kill?
They did not specify which kill. So I think we can use our imagination on that. I think I don't know if that was a pre-existing award. They just made that up for us. But it was I don't know. What do you think is the best kill in the movie? You can be, I'm not worried about spoilers.
Um,
Nobody's going to see this movie because they're like, who did it? Like, we need to find out no, it was the hat. It's on the poster. Do you know what I mean? The hat did it, guys. It's the killer. It's a killer top hat movie.
yeah.
He killed a bunch of people.
I would say, man, I think for me, Rebecca's death was really cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Which like I I loved her portrayal anyway. But then yeah, just like kind of seeing that I was like, oh, we all thought you were gonna be a bad person, but no, you were actually, like uh kind of like Men in Black or whatever. And then oh wait, never mind.
Oh, Kelly, you mean
Kelly,
Kelly?
Kelly, Kelly, you're right. I'm so sorry.
That actually is my favorite death, I think. It's so shocking because like you're so deep into the movie before you've actually gotten to see a death. The structure here, by the way, is borrowed from Jurassic Park, where in the opening, a raptor, an unseen raptor gets one of the guards or whatever, but you never really see it. And it's not till halfway through the film that you actually the T-Rex busts out and you see it. Um, and I've always that's like one of my favorite films, but also like a real linchpin for me in terms of like screenwriting structure. And I study that film and come back to it frequently. And I do love thinking of that moment where Harry finally, in all of his glory, flies out. Not gonna let that happen, and then lands on her head. That is the T-Rex busting through the fence, and obviously we milked that for so much, maybe just slightly more than is warranted of like how long that hat is on her face with the blood streaming down. Um, and it's also fun because it wasn't Seth at the time, but then when Seth, that's a married couple, like that is Seth. Seth's voice, at least in his performance, sucking his wife's soul out through the top of her head, and it's great.
Yeah.
That's my favorite kill.
So my kind of name mix up there does bring me to my next question, because when I first started, I noticed that the title it looked like the logo from a classic sitcom,
Mm-hmm.
and then it took me way too long that the characters' names were also from that sitcom.
Many people never put it together.
Yeah. So what is the Hanky Panky Cheers connection?
So, like many things in this film, there's not one. Effectively, like a lot of this is just because it was dumb and convenient and fun and whatever. And we thought, look, if it made a bunch of us laugh, we went with it. And okay, so the story behind why are all the names from Cheers is that the film is to some extent based on we did a group of us, most of the people who would go on to work on the feature, made a short film back in like 2014 that was for the 48-hour film project. And the way that works is you like pick a bunch of stuff out of a hat, including like a prop and a line of dialogue or a genre or whatever. You have 48 hours to turn in a completed short film. And Hanky Panky came about because we were doing that, and the prop that everybody had to use was a napkin. And I don't remember who. Maybe it was me. I don't want to take credit if it wasn't my pitch, but I think it might have been me or it might have been Toby or someone who was like, um, why don't we make the napkin a talking napkin? So instead of just having it be a prop, it's also our main character because no one else will do that. It'll set our film apart, and it's a fun way to do it. And we can call it Hanky Panky or whatever, and then we'll do a movie about the handkerchief, right? And so that short film, it's just one scene. It's just a dinner party, and it's like a couple setting up. It's a couple setting up their two friends on a blind date. They're socially awkward. The date is not going well, but then we go underneath the table, and their two napkins have a relationship between each other that's sort of the opposite of their human counterparts, and we sort of like understand them as I don't know, a metaphor for their subconscious or their id. They're saying the things that these reserved, introverted, awkward humans are having trouble articulating to each other, but the napkins are very body and sort of a little gross, not nearly as gross as in the movie in the future. But it's a sort of very cute, it's very charming. It's one scene, that's it, right? Like, and so later when we were like, let's make a feature film, same group of friends, at some point I was like, we could do Hanky Panky. We could do a feature version of that short because it wouldn't have anything to do with the short. It would just pick up on the like, this was very funny to have that we had this talking handkerchief thing. The Cheers names are simply because we only had a day to write it. And we had a character named Sam that was like prescribed. You have a napkin, a character named Sam, some dialogue and whatnot. And so I was like, Sam. And then I was like, well, we we have 6 characters names. So I was like, okay, fine. Sam, Diane, Cliff, Carla, Woody. And we'll just put those in for now. And when we come up with a better one, and then we never came up with a better one. So they were placeholder names lifted from Cheers. And then when we went to go to do a feature, by then we all thought this was very stupid and very funny, and we would just keep it. And so then we added Dr. Crane, Lilith, Kelly. In the sequel, Hanky Panky 2, this is Christina Laskey, who plays Carla's idea, so I don't want to take credit for it, but she was like, oh, in the sequel that we should use all the names from Frasier and add them. So the sequel will have a Roz and a Daphne and a Niles, an Eddie, which I think is, well, I'm very tickled by.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, it was, I think it was Lilith that finally like just like clicked for me. I was like, they were talking about Lilith, and then they brought up Dr. Crane, and I'm like, wait a second. And just like my jaw dropped. I was like,
Yeah.
that is amazing.
That is the reason why we sort of kept it and went with it was we were like, this will be very, very rewarding to have like retroactively caught at some. It'll be interesting to see when people catch it, and it might be a very funny thing at some point for people to catch it. There's a deleted scene which used to come like maybe 2/3 of the way through the movie. It's a very funny scene that just ended up on the cutting room floor because it's Sam and Woody when they're out in the wilderness. They're looking for Cliff and Diane. There used to be a scene where they actually discover the ice shack, but Cliff and Diane have already abandoned the ice shack. So Woody and Sam sort of investigate the ice shack, and there's some very stupid jokes. He picks up one of Cliff's cans of Bush and he goes, "Oh, nearly full Bush." Like, it's just very dumb. And but then there's a moment in that scene where he like makes himself a cocktail. There's a bar in the ice shack. It's mostly cut out of the movie, but you can kind of see it in the background. He makes himself a cocktail, and he says and Woody's trying to convince him, let's just get out of here, stop looking for the friends, give up your quest, let's just try to make it home. And Sam says, no, we have to stay, we have all these amazing friends, and he lists them all. And it's just a moment where he goes, we have to stay for Diane, Cliff, Carla, Kelly, Dr. Crane, and Lilith. And then in that scene, he then spikes the camera, looks directly into lens, lifts the cocktail, and goes, cheers. And then the movie continues. And it's just one of those things that you write, you shoot, you laugh at it, and you go, we can't. This just grinds the momentum of this film to a halt, and it's too much. It's too meta. It's better if we just leave that out, and people will probably get it or they won't get it. But it exists. It'll be on the Blu-ray.
So tell us a little bit how you got your start into filmmaking and everything.
I really didn't want to for a really long time. I like ran away from my destiny and went to grad school. And honestly, while I was in grad school and I was finishing up I did a PhD in English, and I was writing a, very idiosyncratic dissertation on a topic about which I am the world's foremost expert now. It's very silly. And at some point doing that, I was like, well, this was a terrible idea. I don't want to write about movies. I want to come back and write movies. I'm from LA, and Lindsay and I have been together a very long time. So she was already living in LA. We were bi-coastal while I was in grad school. It was like, the decision kind of made itself up for me, where I was like, okay, I guess I was trying to convince my mom that I'm smart or whatever, but I probably should go back and do the thing that I've always been running away from, which was write things. I don't know. So I tried, and then basically spent a couple years like hunting down jobs and sort of got some PA work that was on various TV shows and stuff where I could get it, and eventually sort of like moved from PA to PA gig I ended up on a television show called American Housewife, which I was, mostly in charge of walking the showrunner's dogs and getting coffee and stuff. But then, like, weirdly, that show was very successful and lasted a really long time. We did 103 episodes, and by season 4, I was a writer on the show. So that was sort of my it took, I don't know, 7 years or whatever, but I guess I broke in that way. And then that show got canceled a few years ago, and since then I've been sort of like focused on, screenwriting mostly, because you have more. What else are you gonna do? I've been pitching and writing things and getting rewrite work and whatnot. And like at some point during the pandemic and the strike and a whole bunch of things that happened all at once, um, I was like, I'm gonna just shift gears into really focus on trying to get Hanky Panky done, get Hanky Panky out there. And that feels like as good a use of my time as anything else, like career wise, I could be doing. So that's the sort of I tried to condense that into that's the full trajectory of how I came from writing. I was writing and teaching. I'm still teaching a little bit. I teach on the side. Um, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of your teaching, kind of, like I know you kind of mentioned this when I sent you these questions last night, but what
Oh yeah.
advice do you have for people who do want to get into this business?
Man, it's so hard because like even the route that I took to get in feels like it was relatively recently, but also feels like it's been already made like it's obsolete by the change. This industry has been changing so much so rapidly, technologically and financially, and like if you had asked me this in 2019, I would have been like, well, I don't know, but probably try to get assistant work and then work your way up from within the system. And now it's like, well, there is not. I don't think there are writer's assistant jobs that are, I mean, there are so many out of work writer's assistants because there were more of them than there were writer's rooms. That I don't think I would encourage anybody to do that. Like, so I don't know. This is a really pertinent question, and I talk about it with my students because I teach at Cal State Northridge, CSUN, which is, I teach in the sort of media theory and criticism track, but like almost all of my students are working or aspiring film production people, filmmakers, or people who are going to work somewhere in and around making films, right? And so like we this is a major concern and a topic of conversation is how do you get in? Like at the moment, I just say to do what I'm doing, which is like assess what you have and then try to make things because I don't know how. I mean, like I'm also, take meetings and pitch things, and I'm a little bit have my foot in the door. So like I have a manager and I can pitch on things and he puts me up for things and like I've been doing it a long time. So I have friends who are executives at studios or whatever, but like fundamentally, none of that is actual is feels like consequential in some way. That's all like, oh, that's great, but none of that's getting me a job or the next job or work or whatever. It feels like you got to just do that wherever you are, like unless you're successful. You got to just make your own stuff. I think still like that seems like that's been true for a long time. Like that advice, like if you can make a web series, make a web series. If you're funny, do a funny thing. Can you get out there and do stand up if you're that kind of person, or do sketches, or can you meet up with people? Can you, make short films and get them into film festivals? Can you like what can you do with what you have? I think that that's still worthwhile and none of that is wasted. So it's like if you want to write. If you want to make things, make things. You certainly can't like wait for anybody to help, right? That's not going to happen. And if you can, get a foot in the door work, get foot in the door work. But like that used to be my main point of entry is like get that foot in the door work, get on sets, get that on set experience, get those PA jobs, get coffee, do whatever. Now I'm like, I don't know if that's worth anybody's time. I honestly I have no idea. So I'm gonna try. I guess like unless A24 comes a calling or whatever. We love this. What else do you have? I'm just gonna, I guess I'll make Hanky Panky too because nobody can stop me. I've written half of it. I keep
Nice.
writing that. I'll make it.
Can't wait for Hanky Panky 17.
Yeah, well, so there's a planned trilogy, Hanky Panky 3 hat trick. Hanky Panky 2, it's like each one is a sort of like Hanky Panky 1 murder mystery in cabin, so it's really Clue on acid. Hanky Panky 2 right now, and I could throw this in the trash, but Hanky Panky 2 right now is much more of focused on the alien invasion aspect. Harry comes back, army of hats. It's really Independence Day on acid. And then Hanky Panky 3 will be in my head right now, Hanky Panky 3 is Apocalypse Now on acid. It's very much Heart of Darkness, and we're going to the hat realm. You know what I mean? Like it's like to end this war with the evil hats once and for all, we have to take it to their home world, and find that Dr. Crane is our Colonel Kurtz, who's gone native amongst the hats, upriver in the river of hats or whatever. I don't have that one as well mapped out. But yeah, and then maybe a prequel. I think that would be great. TV show, young Sam and Woody just trying to survive middle school, but he's got a talking napkin who wants to clean up messes to orgasm. It's kind of like a live action Big Mouth, except instead of like a well developed sort of metaphor of hormone monsters, it's just a napkin who's disgusting.
So Nick,
You listening, Nick Kroll?
Nick,
Hire me.
how can people find you online?
They can't, but they can find the movie. Hanky Panky is everywhere, like hankypankythemovie.com, hankypankymovie.com, which redirects to hankypankythemovie.com. And then Hanky Panky is on all of the socials, all of them, I think, at this point. Not all of them, but the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where you can find Nick Roth. I'm probably, you search and find me on LinkedIn. That's my name. I'm on there because that's the only social media that I'm on as myself. It feels more honest. It's just like, hire me or don't. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not going to show you pictures of my latte.
So one more time, give us the info on Hanky Panky.
It's out now on VOD on Apple, Amazon, Google, and the ones with even funnier names.
Nick Roth, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. This is like, if you are a fan of dumb humor, things like that, like, you are going to love this movie. This was so fun. Best of luck to you.
It is a dumb movie for smart people. That's what I think. That's the new tagline.
I love it. All right, have a good one.
Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for this episode of The Geek Awakens. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot us an email at thegeekawakenspodcast@gmail.com.
It would be a shame if you didn't follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Geek Awakens Podcast or on Twitter at Geek Awakens.
Theme music created and produced by E. Cannon Beats.
Our logo was designed by Shay McCain.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. We're boldly gone.